joining me live right now. ZipRecruiter's chief economist, Julia Pollack, joins me. Julia, welcome to the Ken Coleman Show.
Thank you so much. I love the show, so it's a great honor to be here.
Well, thank you. All right, so let's start with, do we see, and you're an economist, and your profession came up with this term, the Great Resignation, which I think is absolutely a wonderful moniker for what's really going on. Let's start with, do we see this trend where we've had 4+ million workers from August through December changing jobs, leaving jobs? Do we see this continuing in the near future?
Yes, and let me give you 3 reasons why. The first is change. So the pandemic changed the world. It made some jobs a lot more pleasant. It made other jobs a lot less pleasant. So let me give you an example. If you got a babysitter to go to work and you got on the subway and went all the way across town, and then you stood at the front of a business welcoming people to that business, but now you have to ask them to produce a vaccination card and pull their mask up over their nose, your job got more expensive, less convenient, more unsafe, less pleasant. It just got horrible. Okay. At the same time, if you had a call center job and you had to go to a call center and make calls, like a sardine right next to other people and wait for them to finish their call before you could make yours, those call centers, they sent you to work from home for more than a year and a half. And then they realized, wait a second, people can be trusted to make these calls on cell phones and laptops with our company software from home. They're doing a great job. You know what? We're going to keep doing this. Yeah. And so now you can get a call center job where you are at home in your pajamas with the game on at the back, and a lot of flexibility to watch your kids and do the laundry and cook and be productive in your life. So that's why that's one reason why people are leaving, right? Things change. Some things got worse. Some things got better. So
you see it continuing. What changes? What has to change for this to stop? And not that it's a bad thing, but or are we just in a new trend now where we're going to just see greater turnover with people just not staying as long?
I think we're going to see a lot of churn for quite a long time. Another issue is that there are 56% more openings right now than there were before the pandemic. And so whenever there are more opportunities, there's a better chance of a good match. Yeah. And so people are sorting into the jobs that suit them best. Yeah. And then finally, you have this really, really tight labor market. You have this labor shortage. In the past, when a company posted 10 vacancies, there were usually about 24 unemployed people for those postings. So there are usually, throughout American history, there've usually been more than 2 unemployed people per job opening. Now you have almost 2 openings per unemployed person. So that has changed the market value of a job seeker. It's given them so much more leverage and bargaining power. Oh, yeah. And so it's raised the roof. Yeah. The possibilities here have grown. Employers are reducing requirements. So if you had a coordinator role or a specialist role before, hey, you may actually be able to get a manager role now, even if you don't have that much experience. Yes. Right? We've seen the number of job postings that say no prior experience needed just skyrocket. So more opportunities, opportunities you might not have qualified for before, and then a whole lot more hiring incentives. 12% of jobs are offering signing bonuses, up from around 2% before. Usually those were reserved for the best of the best, for top talent. Now they're being given to entire classes of employees in some companies. All the dishwashers, all the busing staff. That just hasn't happened before. It's a unique moment. It's the golden age for job seekers.
That's a really, really great way of saying it. I think we'll look back on this and marvel at how things shifted so dramatically. Julia Pollack is my guest. She is the chief economist at ZipRecruiter. She joins me here on the Ken Coleman Show. All right, Julia. So you mentioned a couple things there. So we've got this job disparity in that we've got more jobs available, and then we've got not as many people. You did mention that jobs have been created. So I'm assuming job creation, jobs that didn't exist prior to the pandemic, is a part of this. How much is people leaving to go start their own businesses? Because the bar is so low these days to be able to start a business in the United States. And then is there something else that is adding up to the shortage, the labor shortage? What's going on there? Give me the full picture.
Right. So we have about 6 million fewer workers in the labor force than there would have been absent the pandemic, 5 or 6 million fewer. That's because the pandemic accelerated retirements. It also basically shut off immigration. So we had like 250,000 net international migrants last year. Yeah. Usually there are a million. So that's a huge gap in the labor force as well. And so yeah, you've got people who left and retired early. You've got people who would be here working who aren't, and then of course just the experience of being laid off, or of having to stay home and look after your kids changed people's choices. There are people who had a kid right before the pandemic who by now probably would have put that kid in a daycare center and gone to work, who stayed home, and that they stayed home much longer than they would have expected. Now they're like, wait a second, I may as well just stay home until the kid starts school.
Right.
It's changed our choices.
I want to jump in on this entrepreneurial piece. I felt like I saw a little bit of data on this, but have you seen enough data to say that some of this are people going, well, I can go back and work in the kitchen, at the restaurant, or I can go work for myself. I make as much, maybe more, but not the crazy hour. I'm guessing, I'm asking rather, is the entrepreneurial boom a part of this as well?
It's definitely a part of this. So we've had far more business applications each month since the pandemic than before. People are starting businesses at record rates. We're seeing people get realtors licenses, for example, in record numbers, deciding to open their own real estate businesses. So many of those kinds of roles that people can do on their own, we're seeing them try it out and be quite successful.
Yeah. The latest job report from a trend standpoint. I think a lot of people were kind of sitting on the sideline going, it might be meh at best, certainly might be bad. It was unbelievable. It was a very big number. The amount of jobs, it was over 400,000. I want to say 435,000 if I'm roughly. Yeah. Okay, great. Any trends, anything we see there that are really positive, or anything that shocked you? What are you seeing?
So in the prior 16 months, there was a very, very strong relationship between COVID cases and job gains. And if you plugged in the enormous number of new cases that we had in the middle of January, 800,000 daily new cases, into sort of an economic forecasting model based on that prior relationship, you would have seen 2.3 million Americans losing their jobs in January. And that didn't happen. Businesses barely sneezed at Omicron. Even though throughout the job report, you see signs that it was hugely disruptive. So let me give you a couple of examples. 3.6 million people were out sick from work. That's 3.5 times what you usually have in January. Usually there are about 1 million people out because it's flu season, but 3.6 million is a number we've just never seen before. It's way off the charts. 6 million people said they couldn't work due to the pandemic because their business was closed, or there just wasn't enough business due to the pandemic. That's up from 3.1 million the month before. So twice as many people could not go to work. 1.8 million people said they couldn't search for a job because of the pandemic. This is people who were like physically sick, who were COVID positive and couldn't go to a job interview as a result. I know from personal experience, I was trying to hire someone in January, and every single candidate at some point postponed an interview or a trial
absolutely. Day. I want to get your take on two major, I'm going to call them small squalls out there, right? They're out there. I don't think they've developed into major storms, but I'm curious your take. One is the hybrid work model, and the other is the 4-day work week. Let's start with the hybrid work model. I'm seeing a lot of companies try this, but I'm also starting to see some data trickle in from news sources that it's not working out as well as some of these companies thought. Obviously, some of this is in the eye of the beholder too. What are you seeing?
So I think remote work and hybrid work are here to stay. 2/3 of job seekers right now in our most recent nationally representative sample survey said that they wanted to have remote jobs or hybrid jobs. It's incredibly popular because people are saving time and money when they work from home, and they're more productive. The most recent research that came out showed that people are getting 70 minutes more in their day from remote work. Yeah. They're not commuting, so that's 60 minutes of time savings, and then they're not having to put on makeup and a suit. That's 10 minutes of time savings.
That's right. Now, what are leaders? Are you hearing anything trickle out about what leaders are feeling about it? Of course, it's a win and very popular for the worker. What about leaders and executives?
So we did a business survey and asked business owners, leaders, employers, what they felt about remote work, and they were enormously positive about it. Wow. So the overwhelming majority said that it was working much better than they expected. And then the biggest benefits, the number one biggest benefit was reduced absenteeism. I didn't expect to see that. It wasn't, cost savings from less real estate or lower operating costs, but less absenteeism, and then higher retention. Right now, employers who are requiring employees to come back to the office 5 days a week are losing their best and brightest to the companies that are allowing them more flexibility over where work is done.
Wow.
And the market is going to make this decision for employers. Some will listen sooner, some will listen later, but the market, I think, is going to tell employers you're going to have to offer some flexibility around where work is
That's
done.
right. That's right. So far, we're not seeing a lot of gripes about engagement.
No, there have been centuries now, decades of us working in factories and then offices where employers developed a playbook on how to develop organizational culture, a company culture in the office, and using physical sort of tools to do that, the water cooler, the ping pong table, et cetera. Employers now need to develop a playbook about how to do that remotely. And it's totally possible. I mean, I've been impressed at my own company. We have, lots of Zoom meetings. Our CEO holds a weekly or biweekly all hands meeting where he talks to all of us. There's tons of engagement, lots of remote events, lots of fun team building exercises. And then, of course, the company has thrown resources at getting us together in person on occasion as well, in new ways that I think have expanded and deepened connection. So it is possible. There's something quite intimate about remote work. We're all looking into each other's homes. We're all meeting each other's spouses and children and pets. So it doesn't necessarily need to kill connection.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. All right. Let's talk about the 4-day work week. How close is this to adoption in the United States? I mean, I know it's being studied in Europe. I know some companies are tinkering with a test on it. How is this going to take place? Will it catch hold? Thoughts on this?
So this one, I don't think will catch hold. Remote work's here to stay. I don't think the 4-day work week is taking off in America anytime soon. And here's why. When people got the additional 70 minutes a day in time savings from remote work, you know what they did with that time? They put half of it towards work. Yeah. So they spent more time with their families, they slept more, they got more entertainment, but they also worked more.
Yeah.
How much you work is a trade-off between how much leisure and entertainment and fun you want and how much you want to go after the rewards of work. And most people in America, even people who hate their jobs, sometimes don't hate everything about their job. People actually quite like their jobs. I love my job. I find it really exciting and interesting. I also have quite a bit of leisure and flexibility in my job. I can scroll, LinkedIn. I can watch your podcast. I can do a whole bunch of things during that work time that are immensely fulfilling and interesting to me. I meet people like you. So people don't hate their jobs that much to want to give up a day if it also means giving up earnings. And if people have an additional day available, some of them will spend a lot of, some part of that time doing extra work.
Yeah. All right. Before I let you go, I want to ask you about the leadership factor. Obviously, the pandemic forced so much change on us all. You've been talking about how much people love, we've seen this, they love the flexibility, the hybrid model or the complete remote model. Certainly, we've seen a boom in income increases, the signing bonuses. I mean, this is a go get it while you can get it. It's a bit of an arms race, right? For companies like, people are moving, same position, 20% increase, all that. So there's the money play. How much of this is culture driven, leaders not valuing people and then feeling like, hey, I've been treated this way, and I'm just going to go, I got to try something new. And so that's one part of the question. How much it is leadership driven or management driven, and how much of it is meaning driven? When the pandemic maybe forced us to consider how precious life is, I actually want to get meaning out of my work. Your thoughts on what you're seeing on those two issues?
So I think, all people are different, all companies are different, and there are people who took this pandemic as a time to take stock of their lives and what was really important to them, who realized, overseeing their kids' schoolwork for a year and a half, that was actually something they'd been ignoring. They weren't really present for their kids and their education. And actually, wait a second, this is my responsibility. This is the most fundamental responsibility, right? So yes, there are definitely people who've changed their life choices and are looking for more flexibility because their priorities have changed. But this is very, very much a reckoning, a great reckoning for companies and for leaders. Mm-hmm. If you can't fire a low-performing worker, and right now, layoffs and firings are at the lowest share of job separations ever. They're the lowest numbers ever. We have record low layoffs right now. It's only about less than 20% of all job separations are initiated by the employer right now. 80% are initiated by the job seeker, by the worker, and that's very unusual because usually 40% of job separations are employee firm initiated, company initiated. So what we have going on here is that companies can't fire people because they know how expensive it is to replace them. And so how else do you get productivity out of someone if you can't just replace them? Well, you have to learn how to manage them, how to motivate them, how to inspire them. And so management is what companies are realizing is sort of the secret sauce. They're going to need to learn to manage people better.
Yes, got to actually learn to lead.
Learn to lead, exactly. Yeah, that's right. And the other issue is, remote work only works if you lead in such a way to get the most out of it.
Yes.
In many, many companies, most people, the most productive people who would love to work from home don't do it because they think they'll be penalized if they do it. They think that it's really important to show up in the office to sort of rub shoulders and joke around at the water cooler, and that they'll be punished. And so what you have in those companies is that the lowest performers, the people who, want to, play video games and smoke pot all day, they are the ones who work from home and are not productive. Right. And the people who would be really productive at home end up coming into the office, wasting a whole lot of time and being miserable about it. So you need to be committed to remote work if you want to make it work. You need to change the way you evaluate people, make sure that you evaluate actual output and product or work product rather than, who and hobnobbing. Yeah. So there's a lot of work for managers and leaders right now.
It is a brave new frontier as things continue to shift. She is Julia Pollack. She's the chief economist at ZipRecruiter. Julia, thank you so much for spending time with us. We're much better for your contribution. Thank you so much.